Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies and welcome to today's edition of CEO Roundtable. In this edition, we want to discuss about ways and means of handling the negative criticism or negative feedback. The negative feedback can happen from your bosses or from your clients or anyone from the industry. To discuss this subject, let me introduce my guests on the panel, Mr. Naval Gund. He joins us from London and he's a chairman of MindFit Limited.
Good morning, everybody.
Pleasure to see you here, Naval. Our second guest is Farida Charania. She is the CEO of a very new age HR company called Career Zoom. She joins us from Singapore.
Hello everyone. Hope everyone has had a good week so far. I'm very much looking forward to the weekend.
Yes, Farida, welcome to the roundtable. And our last guest is Ms. Kanchan Verma. She joins us from India and she is the CEO of Akulmach Technologies.
Hi, how everybody? How everybody is?
We are all fine, Kanchan. So let's start the discussion. See, many times when we face the people, when we are in public life or even work with 5 people, there is bound to be some sort of input for us. And what I feel is that when somebody is giving negative feedback, and anyone can give positive feedback, but if someone decides to give a negative feedback, it's not easy for that person to come out and give that feedback. People tend to know this, yet they don't take this as a constructive feedback. They get into shell. So let me call Naval in discussing this further. How should we actually take this negative criticism forward?
Well, it's a really good question because it happens all the time. And in fact, it happens more often than we care to think about, because whenever we hear negative things around us, we tend to shut down and stop listening because we don't like it. We don't like confrontation. But underlying all of this is we need to realize what feedback is all about. Feedback is, break it down, feed. We're feeding something that we need. We're getting really important information back. So for what reason? So we can understand what we're doing better and we can do things better. So it's to grow. They say feedback is the breakfast of champions. And I talk about this all the time. Why is it breakfast? Because it's the first meal of the day. And you should enjoy feedback. So part of this is not giving negative feedback because people won't listen to it. So you need to stop yourself doing it. And I'm sure we're going to get into some of that discussion of how you can do that. But more importantly, keep your ears and eyes open to receiving feedback. And even if it is negative, take it on the chin, because there might be a nugget in there that's really important that will make your life a lot easier if you listen to it and take it on. So this is such an important subject, really. We're not taught feedback. We don't have a lesson on feedback, do we? We don't start our school career having feedback lessons, and yet we get feedback all the time. So open it up to everyone here, because we've got a really diverse audience, a diverse panel this morning, which is really good because we've got lots of different views from different parts of the world, and we've got that great feminine male mix here. Because ladies, do you like people shouting at you? Do you go to areas where people shout at you? Do you enjoy being shouted at? I don't, by the way. I mean, this isn't a male or female.
Kanchan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I also want to tell you these are few important points which we are discussing. As Bill Gates says, the most unhappy customer is the greatest source of learning. So feedback gives you a opportunity to learn. Now, when a feedback is given, then it should not be taken as emotionally, and you should not maybe ask a person who's giving you feedback in a negative way. Don't speak to him in a negative way. Rather, you find out, you say thank you, because there is an opportunity of learning in that process. And you can always think that where as a manager, or as a product manager, or as a service provider, where I am wrong. So, and then you should be giving thank you to a person who is giving feedback, and then maybe take time to reverse back whatever the fault is, and also also give information that this is how we have changed based on the feedback which is given by a person. So in this process, what will happen, though you first encountered a negative feedback from your customer, from your friend, or from your boss, but when you correct it, and then you inform these correction to the concerned person based on the feedback, that person feels good, and eventually there are chances that that person will become as your customer, or maybe somebody who look at up to you for further guidance. Isn't it, Farida?
I think excellent point. And to answer Neville's question, whether we enjoy being shouted at, I don't think a lot of people enjoy being shouted at. But feedback is it's a tough animal to tame, honestly, because we all kind of say that we are good to get feedback, but most of us actually are emotional about this feedback. So like Kanchan was advising, that don't take it emotionally, but the fact is that we are humans, we are all emotional. So I have a 3-step process for absorbing any kind of feedback. One is listen. So listen to respond, don't react. Because understand, in a work setting, the feedback is not about you as a person, it's about your performance. And feedback is basically an opportunity for the person to see where there are gaps and understand their developmental areas. So first is listen and understand, don't react, don't get defensive, because you might just put off the other person, and then it is your loss because you are not listening where there are gaps. Secondly, absorb it, understand as to what part of the feedback is something that you can actually work with, what are things that you can do, because ultimately it's about your performance. It's about how you are in the workplace and what you can actually do or tweak to make your performance better. Also assess, because there are two types of feedbacks. One is negative feedback, which is for making you aware of the developmental areas the other person sees it, and one is there are just some nasty people, so that you can always kind of keep aside, because that's criticism and sometimes it might not even be constructive. And as a person, we are able to understand that if we listen, we don't react, and we respond and we absorb. Absorption is the stage where you start evaluating all the points that someone has actually told you. It might be negative, but you need to pick and choose what you can actually work on, you can change, and it can be something that's constructive. It will be useful for you, it will be useful for the people that you work with and the organization you work for, or even in general if you are in school, etc. And the third step is basically follow through. So now you have realized after evaluation that I was given this feedback, it sounded negative, but these are 3 points that I have picked up as an individual which I want to work on. Follow through, have a plan for yourself where you have, for instance, if there was feedback that you are very scattered in your brain, whenever there's a meeting, you are never prepared. It's a very straightforward feedback, it is negative. But the thing is, that, and it will actually be useful. So next time, the follow through means that you understand what things actually you could change in that approach. This is not an overnight process, but it's a gradual process, and eventually after actually following through for a while, you might yourself see a difference. So the three steps which I like to summarize again is listen, absorb, and follow through. So this is my take on it. And of course, coming back to somebody shouting at you, I don't think that's acceptable. In any setting, nobody should be shouting at each other, because we are all professionals, or we are all grown-up human beings, and when someone talks to someone, it shouldn't be shouting. It should be a conversation.
I love that because it's contextual, and that's the important thing. And let's look at listen, absorb, and follow through. LAF. If you start to say what LAF, it's laugh. Have a laugh. Because that's what feedback should be about. Have a laugh, enjoy it, get it forward. So thanks, Fareed. I mean, I've learned something there today, because I can now give someone else. You should have a laugh. Feedback, you have a laugh, mate, and it's nice having that East End accent on it, because they spell laugh, Laugh, LAF, because it's quick and easy and we can all understand it. But just picking on that is contextual. So Kanchan was talking about in a customer service type arena. I mean, we're all customers. I bet we've all walked into a shop really angry about having bad customer service. And yet we're all on here talking about you shouldn't be angry, you shouldn't be shouting at people, you should be giving feedback to the assistant. I mean, the assistant didn't make that beautiful dress that actually has got a stain on it and should never have been given to you and should never have been put on the hanger. The assistant's just an assistant. They're just there as the front line of that organisation. But how many people do we see in an ordinary week as we go around the shops where someone is having an argument, a real stand-up argument with a sales assistant who is probably paid a lot less than they are? So contextualize things in a way that we really should be thinking about it. And then we'll have a laugh.
So I think I take the opportunity to summarize these very nice advices given by the panelists. But before that, I would like to clarify that shouting is not really a feedback. I just want to draw a conclusion around it. Shouting is misbehavior. So I don't think anybody should take shouting lying down. They can take it in whatever way they want to take it. The feedback is really positive feedbacks are there because many times you have the intuition, you already know what is working, what is not working. But I think people, when they give negative feedback to different people, it needs courage, because giving a negative feedback, it actually would result into snapping of ties, and yet some people give negative feedback. So I think it is our responsibility to break it down, and I will take on from where Farida stopped, which is follow-ups. So I think from my point of view, you take the negative feedback, analyze it, um, see where we are going wrong. Second thing we can do is talk to other people about it, because you never know, you may be doing things which are absolutely wrong and you don't even know about it, and just that one out of the blue person has given you this feedback, maybe you should check it out. Maybe you should find out whether it is reality or not. So you do a little bit of survey, and then having found certain things about the feedback, you should go back to the person who has given you as a follow-up. So I think these are the three steps that we should do uh, as a first, in the first instant. But then the negative feedback can also become a strength. So I leave it open how to make this negative feedback become our strength. And anyone can come and talk about it.
I like to pick that up because I strongly believe that negative feedback is better than no feedback, because you're getting something back. Uh, One of the things that if it's really something that bothers you as a person, ask for time to process that feedback, because if you don't get feedback, you would go on doing the same thing. A lot of people might think, but like CK said, it's a very courageous thing to give negative feedback to someone. So that person is actually taking that step and telling you that there is something that needs attention. Yeah. So absorb it, ask for time. Sometimes there are, if the person is very defensive, sometimes people start apologizing right away. That's not really something that should be the reaction. If you really feel very, very bothered by it, and if you feel that, oh my God, what has happened, ask for some time. It's all right. Just relax. uh, so there is an incident which I'll share. Many years ago, this is a lot of you people watching might not be born by then, but this is very long time ago when I was in school. And I I was always used to having positive feedback from my teachers, because I was one of those kids who was good at everything, at least I believed so. And then one day I had my physical education teacher give me feedback, saying that your stride is long but you don't have speed. Now this is very simple thing, but I actually went into a depression because I couldn't take that feedback. I said, no, I've been winning trophies for my school, and I am good at it. But I was very young, because at that the age of 12 or 13, you don't really kind of understand how to process that feedback. So it's the same thing. Some of us grow up, we still think that way because we can't process the feedback. And it impacted me so much that I actually stopped running. And it went on for a while before I picked it up again, and I picked it back in my 20s. So this happened when I was maybe 12 years old, and till about 24 I didn't run at all. I didn't do any competitive running. So uh, the cusp of the whole thing is that if this feedback is impacting a person negatively, honestly the person giving the feedback is not going to bear the brunt of it. You as an individual are going to bear the brunt of it. So be happy that someone gave you that feedback. It's an opportunity. If it doesn't apply to you, I mean, it's all right. But if you can take something back from that, why not?
I feel
I think that's a
I feel
brilliant example.
yes, it is, and I would like to take it from what Farida is saying. Taking feedback positively is also very, very essential, because many times people don't know that, how to get the information about that particular feedback. So, and they become disoriented, and they don't know how to get data. So that is also very important to really take it positively. That is first step. And second is that get more information, what is wrong and what is right, how can we improve this, and what, because there are always a scope of improvement in any services, or we can even improve a little bit in a product also. So I think to get more information, to get more inputs and get more data is very, very essential, rather than becoming disoriented during this learning process.
Yeah, it's really important that we can get disoriented. You're absolutely right. And the key message that I think we need to be telling people today is, if you're giving feedback, I don't like this positive and negative issue. It's feedback. Why am I giving you feedback? Well, I'm either going to be praising what you're doing. And when we praise people, actually, we praise in public, because that shows actually everyone else how good this person's doing. But we never criticize in public. We always criticize in person, away from everything else. But as I say, we're giving feedback for two reasons. We're either praising you, and one of the best phrases I had from a boss of mine, who wasn't really forthcoming in very appreciative words, but he used to tap me on the shoulder, and it wasn't very often, by the way. He used to tap me on the shoulder. He said, "Well done, Neville." Now that meant everything to me, because I knew that praise from this person was like winning the gold medal. And we all know what that feeling is when we've done something really well. But we don't need that praise from someone else. to be told we've done it really well. We know we've done it really well. So give feedback to yourself, because that's really important. Look in the mirror and say, you did this really well today, and you could improve on this and this and this. Notice that's not negative, is it? So it's how we're delivering it. And remember, we're giving feedback to somebody else. So who's it for? It's not for you, it's for them. So you need to get them in the right mood to accept it. And Farida, as you said, you were in the mood to get something, but it was very negative. And then for 10 years, it was so negative, and yet wasn't that negative really when you look back on it. It was, you can improve this, but it was given to you in the wrong way from a teacher. I mean, that's the embarrassing thing. And more importantly, when that teacher saw the effect it had on you, they did nothing about it. So we've got to remember that when we give feedback to somebody, we've got to think of the consequences. And we need to be there to help them with the consequences, not just to say, well, I've given you feedback and now I'm just going to clear off. So there's in a business context, you're there all the time, so you can actually see the consequences. And I'm going to go back to this, have a laugh, because it's where it should be. In a business arena, we all want to be the best. We all want to not be the weakest link in the team. We all want to be part of the team and pulling in the right direction. And the only way we're going to do that is to get feedback. And it's as simple as that, really. Let's not make it too complicated. And remember, if it's important to give it, find a way to give it in the best way you can.
I also want to add one point is that if you get some critical feedback, so don't take it in isolation, because it can impact you in your necessarily or emotionally. But rather than you can seek help to people who have more experience or somebody who's closer to you. So in that way, you are more sound in really accepting that negative or constructive feedback. That is also one important aspect.
So let me summarize this. So we're going back to the same point where we need to analyze the feedback. We need to do a little bit of survey, do market study of that feedback, and then we have to follow up with the person who has given us the feedback. But how do we utilize this feedback as our strength? So in my opinion, the strength would come from doing all this exercise and then adapting the best method way forward. Because all the feedback, I mean, if you look at the journey of all other leaders, Neville was talking about feedback is the breakfast of champions and so on. So all these champions we have seen, I don't want to take any specific name, but I think they have been criticized almost like 90% in their lifetime, in their career. And this 10% is what that makes them a leader. So I think the leadership journey is based on negative criticism and feedback. And this is how you can convert all feedback. In fact, you should demand feedback. And you should not look at positive feedback because it is already known to you, but you should more specifically look at the negative feedback, because that is what will determine your future journey. Neville, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a really interesting conversation, and we've given people, lots of little tricks of the trade to get out there and do it. I think if you're not very good at giving feedback, start with yourself. Look in the mirror on a daily basis and start the day off with feedback. Feedback is a breakfast of champions. Start the day off. Look in the mirror and saying, today I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And even put a sticky note on the mirror. And at the end of the day, go back and look at the sticky note. Did I do it? Yeah, I feel great about that. And immediately you're giving yourself some feedback. And if you didn't do it, You say, actually, I didn't do as well as I thought I was going to do, but tomorrow I'm going to do this differently. And as soon as you start to do that yourself, all of a sudden that practice will move into practicing with other people. This isn't difficult to do. We haven't been taught how to do it. We've been taught to do science and languages and maths and goodness knows else for many years, but we've never been taught how to relate with other people and have a conversation, because feedback is just a conversation. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think that's where we need to start. Have a conversation with ourselves and start to be honest. And then we're in a really good position to have a conversation with other people.
I like to add to this. So George Bernard Shaw actually said that the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's already happened. Yeah, and I think feedback is the same thing, because a lot of us actually live in our own silos, and and especially now in the in the COVID prone pandemic world, we are all working from our homes, we are working in isolation. There is very little exchange. So if there is feedback, it shouldn't happen the way I took it when I was a child, because it put me off something completely and I was too young to deal with it. But I think any feedback that comes is an opportunity, and now more so because we work alone, since we are working from home and we are not in an office setting, so it's very difficult to even understand the body language of the person who's giving you that feedback. So use that opportunity, don't take it personally. Remember one thing: in a work setting, it's not about you as a person. So if I am getting feedback, and this I as a child, when I couldn't relate to it, it was not about me, Farida, as a person, it was about my performance. And had I taken that feedback, spoken to somebody, I would have been able to improve. Who knows? I could have made sports my, career, but I didn't do that. So I think I have learned from my mistakes. And the same thing I would say to the viewers, that if there is feedback, don't react. If you need to talk, respond, because understand what the person is saying. Sit back, take a deep breath. Again, I'm stressing, it's not about you as a person, it's about your performance. And it is an opportunity to actually change some things. It's a developmental area, and it's eventually going to be in your benefit. So feedback is better than having no feedback. Negative or positive doesn't matter, but feedback is important, and somebody is actually putting time to give that to you, so use it.
Good point. Very good point.
Kanchan, you have any last comments?
Yeah, I just want to add that don't dwell on the feedback, rather find out the solutions. That's very important. And take it as a chance for improvement. Take it as a chance. At least somebody has taken pain to really come up to you and tell what other person feels about certain service or product. So take it as if it's a learning, rather than you start arguing and taking time and positioning yourself that you are right or other person is wrong. So that gives a very, very bad impression. So I think you should take up a feedback very positively in a healthy way and try to learn out of it.
And one closing point, and it's picking up again on Farida's experience. She was a child. We all know children, and some of us have got grandchildren. When we speak with them, that's feedback. Just think about what we're saying to our children and our grandchildren, because they believe you. Remember, you're the person they love. You're the person they believe. And if you say something about them, they'll believe it. And it might damage a blossoming career, as we've heard, but you just don't know what you're doing. And this is the problem. We need to understand what we're doing with that conversation. And with children, please be careful, because you could damage a very blossoming career down one arena because you've said the wrong thing.
So I think we had a great learning from the panelists today, and it's a very large subject. It's a huge subject. We can go on. Um, it's a never-ending, and feedback itself is a very big subject. So we have shared certain tricks to handle it, and this is just tip of the iceberg. So if viewers, if you want to know more about it, you can engage with us, and we can take you through the journey of handling the feedback. It is not for the benefit of the people, but it is your benefit, because you know if you are able to take feedback, then you will become a better leader and successful one. So with this, I will end this discussion today. Do engage with us, do write in, and we can get you the right teacher for you to learn the tricks of the trade. And with this, I'll say goodbye, friends. I'll catch you again in the next CEO roundtable next Friday. Bye bye all.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.